Bismillah Rahman Rahim. So last time we discussed about the concept of stress. Some more discussion about what is stress and strain. So last time we discussed that stress is neither a vector or scalar. It is a tensor. It is such a concept which depends upon about the cutting plane. Normally, we define the stress at a point. We would be discussing all this in the coming slides. So normally we define inside the material, we define stress at a point, and we define at a cutting plane or in an orientation frame. So if we change the cutting plane or orientation of the coordinate frame, then stress is such a concept that its values changes. So it is a tensor. What is a tensor and how we describe a tensor in descriptive form, how we write a tensor, all this would be clear at the end of this lecture. Just remember that it is a tensor and stress has 9 components, and in order to write or describe or explain the general form or general state of a stress at a point within the material, we write it in a matrix form, such as you see here. Stress is equal to a matrix, and then you could see a 9 components of a matrix: sigma xx, tau xy, tau xz, tau yx, sigma yy, tau yz, and tau zx, tau zy, and sigma zz. Here we use two subscripts. So for example, sigma xx, the first subscript describe the direction of normal of a area, the area on which the load is exerting or applying. So you have to take normal to that plane or that area. So the first subscript represents the direction of that normal to the area, and the second subscript represents the direction of the force. For example, sigma xx means that the force is in the direction of x, it is along x-axis, whereas the normal of the area on which force x is applying, that area normal is also along x-axis. Here sigma yy means that the area normal is in along the y-axis, whereas the force itself is along y-axis. The normal of the area is along z-axis, and the force is also along z-axis. So we would have, because of that force, we would have sigma zz. So these three which are along the diagonal of the matrix, these actually represents the normal stress. As last time we discussed that if the force is perpendicular to the area, then the stress that would be produced would be normal stress. And if the force or loading is along the area, it is parallel to the area, then the stress that would be produced would be shear stress. So all shear stresses we denote by tau in order to easily distinguish between the normal stresses and shear stresses. So you could see that these three are the shear stresses and also these three are the shear stresses. The stresses at the diagonal are normal stresses. Tau xy means that the the area the area normal is along x-axis, whereas the force is along y-axis, and because of that we would have this shear component tau xy. So we would have the general state of a stress at a point. We would have 9 components. Uh, so let's discuss, as I discussed with you, that we define the stress at a point within the material. And stress depends on cutting plane or orientation of coordinate frame. If we change the cutting plane or orientation of the cutting plane, then the values of the stress would change. Initially, last time we took an example of a tensile stress or tensile loading. So we have a, let's say we have a rod of a material and it is subjected to a tensile loading P. And we are taking a point within the material. Let's say this point is Q. And I'm passing a line through this point or cutting plane. Assume that this is a cutting plane. So we could cut this rod into two pieces with that. So through this point, I could pass this line or cutting plane. Similarly, another person is passing a cutting plane or line which is at an angle of theta with the horizontal line. So if we change the cutting plane, we would see, we would be discussing this, on this slide, that if we change the cutting plane, then what would happen? The stress values will change. And also through this point, we could pass infinite lines or infinite cutting planes. So which means that for this point, we would have infinite values for the stress. All those values would be correct. It only depends upon that which cutting plane or which coordinate frame which you are taking for your convenience. Remember that stress is such a concept that its value depends upon the cutting plane. If we change the cutting plane, the stress values would change. In this cutting plane, the stress value would be different. However, when we take this cutting plane, the stress value would be different. Both would be correct. And similarly, as I told you that through this point, we could pass infinite cutting planes. So for the stress values at this point, we would have infinite values. All would be correct. It just depends upon the cutting plane. So let's say, because previously we took this as a cutting plane and we come up with a stress value which was sigma is equal to P by A. Now, if we change the cutting plane, then what is happening or what would happen? So let's say I'm taking this as a cutting plane and I'm taking the top portion of the system. I'm taking this segment of our system, which is drawn here. So we have here this load P. Our actual system is in equilibrium. So our free body diagram or this segment would also be in equilibrium. So we have this force which is acting in the upward direction, which is P. So it means that here on this face, we would have a force which would be acting in the downward direction. And this is actually the internal resistance which is coming from the material here, And let's say that internal resistance is R. Since our original system is in equilibrium, so its each and every segment would be in equilibrium. So this R would be equal to P. Only in that case it would be in equilibrium. So now we have this slanted face or slanted area. We have a slanted face or slanted area, and let's say that area is A, capital AN. And in order to now find the stresses at this area or this face, because now you could see that this force is actually inclined on the area or the area is inclined. So we have to resolve this into its rectangular component. Here you could see that this angle is theta. Here this angle is theta. So this angle is what? Because this I am resolving this into rectangular components. So I am drawing a line vertical at this point Q. I'm drawing a line vertical to that slanted face. So, and one line parallel to the slanting face, which is this one. Now, if you look here, this angle we defined here, it is theta. So this angle would be 90 minus theta. And this angle is 90. So 90 minus theta, which means that this angle is theta. So now we could resolve this force R into its rectangular components. So one component would be along this line, and let's say it is Rn, and stands for normal. So Rn is equal to Pn, and this component is along the area. Let's say it is Rp, which is equal to Pp. So we could resolve this into rectangular components. One would be cos component and the other would be sine component. Here the theta is with this component, so this would be cos component and this would be the sine component. Now we have two forces. One force is perpendicular to this area and the other force is parallel to this area. This force is perpendicular to the area, so this force would produce which stress? It would produce the normal stress. The normal of the area is along this line. If you look, the normal of the area is along this line. So this stress would be normal stress, and the stress which is produced by this component is along the area. So this component of force would produce the shear stress. So as we change the cutting plane, previously this was the cutting plane, so we have only one component for the stress, which was sigma is equal to P by A. But now here we have two components of the stresses. Only we have changed the orientation of the cutting plane. So Pn is equal to Rn, and it is the cos component. So R or P cos theta or Pp is equal to Rp is equal to R or P sin theta. So the normal component sigma would be equal to plus means it is a tensile load, so plus Rn by An. An is the area of the inclined face, and it is equal to Rn is equal to Pn plus Pn divided by An is equal to P cos theta by An, and tau, the shear stress, would be Rp by An, and it would be equal to P sin theta by An. So now we could easily conclude that stress is such a concept. If we change the cutting plane, then the values of the stress would change at that point. If this is the cutting plane, we would have only one value for the stress. If this is the cutting plane, we would have two value for the stress only in this particular condition. In this case, in this tensile uniaxial case, if we change the cutting plane, then the stress values would be changed. In this case, we would have one value. In this case, we would have two values. So the conclusion is that it is such a component, it is such a concept which depends upon the cutting plane. It is such a concept that it depends upon the orientation of the coordinate frame. If you change the orientation of the coordinate frame, then the stress values would change. In each coordinate frame, we would have different stress values. All would be correct. The only thing is that in which coordinate frame you are working, or which coordinate frame you are choosing, or in which coordinate frame you are forcing to work in it. So according to that, you have to solve or compute the stress values. Further, in order to further explain this or to discuss the general state of a stress, um, normally, as we discussed, that we define stress at a point within the material. So all of you guys know that the volume of a point is zero. The volume of a point is zero. Point has zero volume or zero area. It has zero area, zero volume. So what is the conclusion? Meaning that we could exaggerate the point into any shape. In order to explain the stress concept, we could exaggerate the point into any shape, because when we shrink that shape into a point, it would have zero volume. So we, in visualization, we could exaggerate the point in a big shape so that we could see it, and we could take in any shape. As its volume is zero, so we can consider any arbitrary shape for a point. For example, this shape, for example, a circle, rectangle, square, cube, cuboid, any shape we could take for a point. We could exaggerate for a point because we know that its volume is zero. But in order to understand this concept of stress, we would exaggerate. We would consider a shape for a stress. Let's say this is the point Q. This is the point Q, but we have exaggerated this point in the form of a cube. General state of stress means that when on the material, we have loading in all directions. We have loading in all directions, X, Y, Z, and we have all shear components. In other words, when all of the 9 components of the stress exists, when all of the 9 components of the stress exist in that matrix which we just discussed, then it means that this is the case of the general state of a stress. This is point Q, but I am exaggerating this point into a shape of a cube because we know that its volume is zero. At the end, when we shrink this to a point, its volume would be zero. But in order to understand the concept of stress, assume that this point is in the shape of a cube. Here you could see 2 stress elements, and you could see the general state of a stress. General state of stress, we have all those 9 components of the stress. And you could see the orientation of the coordinate frame. This is x-axis, this is y-axis, this is z-axis. Here, this is sigma x, so this is x-axis. Here you could see that this is y, so this is y-axis. And here you see sigma z, this is sigma, this is z-axis. And you could also see the shear stresses, tau xy. So if we look at this tau xy, the first subscript represents the normal of the area. So if you look at this face, the normal of this face is along x-axis, so tau x, and the force, if you look here, the stress or the force is along y-axis. So this is tau xy. And here if you look at this shear stress, the force is along z-axis, therefore z here, and the normal of this face is along x-axis, so this is tau x, and z for the force or direction of shear. So here we would have all of the stress components. Similarly here, this is sigma z, tau zx. The normal of the area is along z-axis, and the force, if you look here, the force or the stress itself is along x-axis, so tau z-axis. And similarly you could look for all the shear components. Remember that when we load the material, and the material is not disintegrating, it is not failing, so and it is sustaining the load, so it's each and every particle is in equilibrium. It's each and every point within the material, it must be in equilibrium. So meaning that this point would be not moving at all. It would be completely in statics. It would be not moving at all. It would be completely in statics. So if we have a loading along or the stress along y-axis, so on the other direction we would have also the stress or force along the same axis in order to keep it in statics. Similarly, if we have sigma y in that direction, sigma z in that direction, so we would have sigma z also in that direction in order to keep it in equilibrium. If we have sigma x in this direction, we would have the sigma x on the opposite face, sigma x on the opposite face in order to keep in equilibrium. Similarly, if we have shear stress tau y x on this face, so similarly on the opposite face, we would have tau y z in the opposite direction. If we have tau y xy in this direction, so on the opposite face we would have tau xy in the opposite direction. If we have tau xz in this direction, so in the opposite face we would have tau xz on the opposite direction. So the stress element, this general state of a stress element would be completely in equilibrium. Reason? Because when we load the material within the particles within the material, they are not rotating, they are not moving, they are stationary, completely at statics or equilibrium. So we could use that physics. We are using that physics and we are using that knowledge on this stress element, and we are using the physics on this stress element. And the physics is that when we load the material, its particles are not rotating, not moving, they are stationary within the material. So that is the physics, and we are applying that physics, and we are making this or drawing this stress elements, and we are showing all these stresses. So let's explain this in more easy way. So let's say we are looking to this stress element, and I'm looking through this stress element in this direction. In this direction. So if we are looking in this direction, that is along x-axis, so what I would see this square. When we are looking to this stress element along x-axis, that is in this direction, so we would see this face, this square. So here I have drawn that square. The stress element should must be in equilibrium, otherwise we would be not following the physics of the, or we are not following the reality. So if this is a stress element and I want to show the forces or stresses on this stress element, so let's say if somebody just show sigma y in this direction, so is this in equilibrium? No, it is not in equilibrium. Because of this stress or this force, this stress element is moving in the right direction. So how to make this in equilibrium? There should be a force or stress in the opposite direction. Now this is in equilibrium. Similarly, along the z-axis, we have the normal stress sigma z. Now actually the stress element is in equilibrium, but when we show the shear stress, because when you look to the stress element this direction, so we see sigma y, which is shown here, and we see sigma z, which is shown here, and we also see this shear stress tau yz, which is shown here, tau yz. It is applying this stresses along this face, but in order to see, it is actually shown a little bit away on the face, but remember that it is applying on this face. So tau yz. Now look at this stress element. It is in equilibrium if we have this stress or this load, so because of that it would rotate. So in how to make this in equilibrium, I just draw the opposite force or opposite stress on the opposite face here. So tau yz. Is it in equilibrium? No. We are applying a couple on this point or this stress element. Because of it, it would again rotate. So how to make this in equilibrium? We must have a opposite couple acting on the stress element. So just draw an opposite couple, and the opposite couple for this, and for this, or opposite couple would be in the other direction, because this is producing counterclockwise moment. So we have to draw an opposite couple which would produce clockwise moment, and that opposite couple is what it is. If you look here, it is tau yz, tau yz. Now the stress element is actually completely in equilibrium. So we have tau yz and tau yz, which is a couple, and tau zy or tau zy, which is a couple. And these two couples must be equal. They must be in different directions and must be equal in magnitude. Remember that these must be equal in magnitude and opposite in directions. Means in magnitude they are same. We call them cross shears. These are cross shears. Tau y z and tau zy. They are cross shears, and remember that cross shears would be always equal. They would be always equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. And here we could see that we would have three cross shears. We would have three cross shears. So it is the same discussion which we have done. Just read what is written there. So normally, again, coming to the general state of stress. So we have the normal stresses, which is along the diagonal, and tau xy, tau y x. These are cross shears, and these would be same in magnitude, opposite in direction. Tau xz, tau zy, no, zx, they are cross shears, opposite in direction, same in magnitude. Tau yz, tau zy, cross shear, equal in magnitude, opposite in direction. Reason is that the stress element must be in equilibrium. In order to validate the reality, which is that when we load the material, the particles within the material, they are not moving, they are not rotating, they are not rotating. So because of that, it means that the cross shear must be equal to 0. So tau xy must be equal to tau yx, tau yz must be equal to tau zy, tau xz must be equal to tau zx. What does it mean? It means that if we know the six components, if we know the six components, for example, sigma xx, tau xy, tau zy, sigma yy, sigma zz, and 1, 2, and 3. So if we know six components of the stress, then it means that we would know all of the nine components of the stress matrix, because these three are equal, they are related to each other. So another conclusion, that very important conclusion, that the cross shears are always equal. So coming back to the discussion which we have done previously, and same discussion we are applying on the general state of stress, that is the matrix which we are written here. So initially in the beginning of discussion, we consider a rod which is subjected to tensile loading, axial loading, uniaxial loading, and then we have taken a cutting plane here, and we have cut this into two pieces. This is the top segment and this is the bottom segment. And in order to visualize the internal stresses or internal load, which is R is equal to P, and the area here is A, in this case it is pi d square by 4. So let's say this is our x-axis and this is our y-axis, and we have a load P here and a load P here, and then we are cutting we want to find the stress at this point Q. So for that, we are taking a cutting plane along x-axis, and we are drawing this segment of the material. This segment of the material is here, and we have a load P here, which is not shown here, but here we have a load P, and this is the internal resistance of the material R at this section, which is equal to P. So this is x-axis, this is y-axis, and z-axis is perpendicular to the slide. So we have a coordinate frame. So we have defined a coordinate frame here. So now, if you look here, the normal, if we are taking this area, the normal of this area is along y-axis. It is along y-axis. And this force is also along y-axis. So because of this force, we would have sigma y, and that would be equal to plus r by a. It is equal to plus p by a. So here, what does this mean? This means that here we have this component of the stress matrix, sigma y, and it is equal to plus p by a. So we are writing this here. Sigma y is here. Here you could see that we have sigma y. So sigma y is equal to plus p by a. If there is no load, there would be no stress. So along x-axis, if you look here, along x-axis, there is no load on this rod. Along x-axis, there is no load on this rod. If there is no load, there would be no stress. Sigma xx is equal to load along x-axis by area on which that load is acting. Since there is no load along x-axis, Px is 0. So sigma xx would be 0. So here sigma xx 0. Z-axis is perpendicular to the slide. If you look here, there is no load along the z-axis perpendicular to the slide. So sigma zz is equal to pz by area, and pz is 0. So sigma zz is 0. Similarly, there are no other loads. If you look here, only we have load along y-axis. There is no other load. So all these shear components, in this case, in this particular case, all these shear components would be 0. Only we have only one stress component, which is sigma yy, and that sigma yy is plus p by a. So if you want to write down a stress matrix for this case, where the cutting plane is along x-axis, we would have this stress matrix. So only we have a component sigma yy. So because we have taken the orientation such that only one component appear in this case. The second case which we will discuss, if we change the cutting plane, then what would happen and how we would write the stress matrix. We have already discussed that if we have a point Q, and if we change the orientation of the cutting plane, if this is the cutting plane which is an angle of theta to the horizontal or to the x-axis, then we would have two forces. One force would be perpendicular to this slanted area, one force would be parallel to the slanted area. Because of the perpendicular force, we would have normal stress, and because of this force which is parallel to the area, we would have shear stress. So now to this case, I'm changing the orientation frame. First, this was our orientation frame. This was x-axis, and this was y-axis. Now we are rotating the orientation. We are rotating the frame. Let's say now this is x prime. This is x prime, and perpendicular to this x prime, we have y prime. So here we have y prime. So we have changed the orientation of the coordinate frame. Here you could see that we are taking this segment. This segment is redrawn here, and along this is x prime axis, and this is y prime axis. So this force, this area is perpendicular normal of this area is along y prime, and this force is along y prime. So because of that, we would have sigma y prime, and it would be equal to plus p n, that is p cos theta, by the area of this slanted face, which is a n. And because of this force, the area normal is along y-axis, so we have tau y prime, and the force is along x prime, so we have tau y prime x prime, and its value would be plus pp, which is p sine theta, by this area. Let's say that area we already discussed is capital A n. So, and also we would have these two components. So at this point, we would have two stress components. So in the stress matrix, so we have to write sigma y prime. So sigma y prime would be there, which is p cos theta by an, and we would have tau y prime x prime. So it would be there, its value would be there, and it would be p sine theta by an. And also we know that the cross shear components are equal in magnitude, but different, opposite in direction. So we would have also tau x prime y prime, and it would be equal in magnitudes but opposite in direction. So in the stress matrix, we would have also tau x prime y prime. So here we would see three stress components, and the remaining all would be zero. And the reason is that the force is only along these two axes, x prime y prime. So the remaining all would be zero. So in this case, you could easily see that if we change the orientation of the coordinate frame, if we take this as a coordinate frame, x axis, y axis, then in the stress matrix we would have only one matrix component. But if we change the orientation of the coordinate frame, we rotate the coordinate frame at this point and make it x prime y prime, then you could see that now we would have three non-zero values in the stress matrix. So the values both are correct, both stress calculation is correct. It just depends that in which coordinate frame you are working. If I say to you that solve this problem in x and y coordinate frame, and you should have only one value. And I could also say that solve this problem in x prime y prime, both would be correct. Similarly, to this point, we could draw infinite number of coordinate frame. We would have infinite different values for the stress at point q. All would be correct, all would be correct. So remember that stress is just it is such a concept that it depends upon the coordinate frame, orientation of the coordinate frame. And we define this on a stress component, on a stress, we define this at a point within the material. And to that point, we could pass infinite number of planes. So we would have infinite number of values for stress and strain. So summary of what we have discussed, we define stress at a point within the material. Second, stress depends on the cutting plane or coordinate frame at a point. So if we change the coordinate frame or cutting plane, the value of the stress would change. Stress is a tensor. It is having 9 components. In general state of stress, all of the components would appear. In some cases, we would have some non-zero values and the other zero values. Cross shear stress components at a point are equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Similarly, through a point, infinite planes or coordinate frames can be passed. It means that we would have infinite values of stress at that particular point. All would be correct. If the cutting plane or coordinate frame is changed, the stress values would change. So you have to keep all this discussion in your mind about the concept of stress and strain. Things would be very, very easy. Initially, when we start the course, we would start with the easy discussion uniaxial stresses, axial stresses, uniaxial stresses. Then we would go to the biaxial stresses, and at the end, when you learn all the tools or you learn about more detail about the course, then we would start discussion about the triaxial stresses. Okay, thank you.